Road problem? What Carrow Road problem? Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Carrow Road. It was dubbed as a big week for Norwich City, and so it has proven. 6 points taken from 2 games here. Obviously, most recently today, a 2-0 victory over Cardiff. Struggling Cardiff, it has to be said, but Cardiff all the same. It's pushed Norwich up to 7th in the table. They're now 4 unbeaten, 10 points from their last 4 games. The hunt for the playoffs is well and truly on. This was quite odd as an afternoon, as I'll go on to explain. But I think the most apt description actually was just given by Kenny McLean, who I just spoken to, who described it as a professional performance, not a good performance. And I think I would probably subscribe to that description. But crucially, Norwich City needed to win. They have won. I've stood here lots of times this season and maybe spoke about that. But this feels a little bit different. And of course, there's a lot of context to wrap around it, which we will try and do in the next 10 minutes or so. And I'll try and keep this one as short as humanly possible. But I'm aware I waffle. So hopefully you can hear me. Hopefully you can see me. You'll be able to see Carrow Road's actually a hive of activity at the moment. We've got, we did have Tim Krul and his children playing down there. We've got the groundsman obviously sorting the pitch out, which it needs after 2 games. Also wanted to point out before I do get going, since I've changed the camera vantage point, 3 wins from 3 for Norwich City. So, I know you can stop thanking me. You can stop thanking me. It's all right. This was a really interesting afternoon of football. So if you weren't here at Carrow Road today, you might not realise this, but actually the PA system inside the ground wasn't working. So we didn't have any music. We didn't have any of the usual kind of PA announcements over the microphone, the readings of the teams, the introductions for the mascots, the community hero, that kind of stuff, the reading of the scores, the kind of leaning into on the ball City that we usually get here. So that was quite surreal. It was also quite flat for a lot of this afternoon. And the drum wasn't in the Barclays, so that didn't help. I didn't feel the atmosphere. And plus I think it's really weird, and I felt it as well. So I'm not having a go at anyone whatsoever, and I don't want anyone to think I'm having a go at them. But coming to this place this year has been a little bit like that. It has been a little bit odd, a little bit flat. Kind of feels like everyone's waiting for something, and not necessarily something bad, but just kind of waiting to be inspired at points. And actually, I thought the spell where Norwich needed this crowd the most, they responded after the opening 15 minutes, which were pretty tough, and then they were rewarded later on in that half. But yeah, just a really odd atmosphere that this game was played in all afternoon because of all of those factors. There was still some patches of seats around Carrow Road, lots of different reasons as to why that might be the case. But I'm sure after what has been a pretty impressive week and actually a pretty impressive 4 games where Norwich have discovered some consistency, but perhaps that Wigan performance, which was subpar, in this one, which wasn't particularly great either, they are getting points and they are back in the hunt, and that's all that everyone wanted them to be at this stage. So this game of football, Norwich made a couple of changes. Marquinhos came in for Kieran Dow. Jakob Sorensen came in for Dimi Yanulis at left back. It was quite interesting. Cardiff started the game really well. They actually kind of they were trying to play off Connor Wickham in possession, but out of possession they were pressing really with kind of an individualised free. And Norwich were finding it really difficult to bypass them and to play out, and it was quite stodgy as a result of that. But they did that really effectively and really squeezed the game. Norwich were making poor decisions, and you could kind of see that one team had played in midweek and was a little bit lethargic and feeling, a little bit worse for wear perhaps, and one was really energised and obviously both teams came into this game off the back of 2 wins. But in kind of that opening spell of the game, the opening half an hour, it took a little while for Norwich to get going, and it kind of reverted into that kind of sloppy, quite passive performance that we've seen quite a lot this season. But I guess the difference this time is that they were able to find answers to that and solutions to that. And again, I'm going to quote Kenny McLean in terms of when Gabby Sarah got to grips with this football match, Norwich City got to grips with this football match. He said that. I would agree with him, and I think what we're seeing increasingly, and I think we've been looking for it all season really, is someone, a Norwich player who can grab games that are like this, that hang in the balance, that are proving a little bit difficult, a little bit stodgy at times, by the scruff of the neck, and really drag the team through. Gabby Sarah is that player, and increasingly he's looking very, very impressive and looking kind of like the value for money that I think everyone was kind of hoping that they got when he signed for £8 million. He is, for me, really blossoming into a wonderful, wonderful footballer. I think it's a combination of a few factors. Obviously, the adaptation to English football being one. The new coach, I think he's got a real clarity now in terms of his position and his role and what exactly is being asked of him in that kind of... It's a bit of a half 6, half 8 role at times. His range of passing has been excellent. So that he's kind of thriving off David Wagner's instructions as well. You've got the adaptation. You've got obviously overcoming the language barrier, understanding the league. So all of that is making a big difference to his game, I think, and Norwich are reaping the benefits of that because they've suddenly got a player who can grasp games and who can dictate games, even if it's for short spells within matches. That's often enough, particularly at this level, to kind of win you games, and he did that today. Really, kind of dragged Norwich through a pretty tough period and ensured that they set up for a win ultimately. Really, really impressed with him at the moment. He's in a sparkling run of form. He looks like a very, very, very good player, and his physicality and his sort of energy and his quality on the ball. He played a couple of lovely passes, probably the best one with his right foot, which isn't a common sight by any accounts. And he put a ball just in behind for Max Aarons to run onto. Didn't come to anything, but it was a wonderful pass. It displayed his range of passing. So, for the recruitment team who have taken quite a bashing and who have got signings wrong, and Norwich have made some pretty poor recruitment decisions over the last few years. Gabby Sarah, someone they watched for 4 years, did a lot of work on to try and sign, beat competition to sign as well. That looks like a big tick in their box as one that's got right. He feels the most exciting and most complete player that Norwich City have at this moment in time. And I think that's really reflected in what you're seeing at the moment from him in terms of his performances. A real maturity, a real willingness to be that kind of star man for Norwich City, and also someone who is capable at this level of really dictating and controlling football matches. And it was through him that Norwich City scored the opening goal. Marquinhos on the right just plays it across. It's a lovely drilled low shot, very Marco Stiepermann, the way he kind of drilled it into the back of the net, whistled past Ryan Allsop and nestled into the bottom corner. And 3-4 minutes later, it was Norwich who came forward. Onel Hernandez, who I have to say, very quietly indeed, he's also found a nice run of form under David Wagner and looks to have come to the fore. It's another assist for him today. It would be nice to see him add some goals. He needed that in the second half from, I think it was Sarah's pass again, wasn't it? That he cushioned onto the post. Still obviously looking for that Carrow Road goal, but a brilliant bit of play from him. Awareness, and actually for all the criticism he gets of end product and maybe the erraticness of his play, does really well just to take an extra touch, get his head up and roll the ball across. Marquinhos, intelligent, already alive, already alert to the danger and the situation, already moving, and is there then able to kind of to slide the ball into the back of the net for 2-0. And from there, really, this was game over, because Cardiff don't really score a huge amount of goals. They didn't really trouble Angus Gunn all afternoon. The closest they got was a PNG free kick in the second half. They didn't really have the quality to produce chances, even though they did have moments and they did have good spells within the game. They kind of lack that attacking thrust that probably means that they're in the position that they're in, because actually you look at their defensive record and their goal scored record, and they're certainly not a team who should be where they are in the division. It is the other end and the attacking elements that has cost them. I thought Connor Wickham caused Norwich City problems for certainly the first quarter of the first half. They got to grips with him thereafter. And I would say after that, they rode out that kind of initial early spell. It did feel relatively comfortable, and not comfortable in a really kind of dominating sense in the same way that it did on Tuesday night, but comfortable in terms of they just managed the game well. They were alert to the dangers and probably could have scored a couple more in the second half. Obviously, Hernandez hitting the post. Temu Pukki had a shot saved. Adamida missed a pretty glorious opportunity when he rounded Ryan Allsop as well. So they could have scored more this afternoon. And still stood here saying it wasn't the best performance, which it wasn't. And David Wagner and Kenny McLean both admitted that. So, look, it's a good sign. They've got a little bit of momentum now. It's something that they've been lacking. They haven't really put a run like this together so far this season. I think we all looked at the fixture list and that kind of 5-game block a few matches ago as this being a real opportunity to get some points on the board, to close the gap, to push, to get closer to their ultimate objective. That is what they have done through this, and now the big test comes, because they've got Millwall and Sunderland. Millwall, who are on an incredible run of form and find themselves in 4th or 5th, I think, and Sunderland, who lost at Coventry, but are also chasing the playoffs here in a fortnight's time. Both of those games are going to be really interesting, because as good as this run has been, they've been against sides who are struggling or have struggles or have deficiencies. Well, next week Norwich are going to go to a club that haven't lost in their last 11 at home in Millwall, who are going really well under Gary Rowett, and it's the type of game actually that Norwich City haven't been winning this season, because they haven't had the quality, the consistency, or the ability to win that type of match. If they go there under David Wagner in the run of form that they're in, playing in the way that they do, and pass that test, I think everyone will be talking about their playoff credentials in a completely different way, and rightly so. And then obviously the challenge of Sunderland will be interesting as well, because Tony Mowbray has stabilised them really well after obviously Alex Neil departed earlier in the season. So all feels very positive at the moment. I think we're going to find out a lot about this Norwich City group in the next fortnight. We're going to find a lot more about where they're going to finish. I think there's a big range on that, and ultimately in the Championship, a couple of good results takes you closer to the top six, and a couple of bad results don't. Norwich have probably stumbled when they've been asked to make that run to close up space to the top six. Well, they haven't done that in this run, and there's actually been a nice efficiency about them that we haven't seen. And you know, I always say that good teams manage to win when they're not particularly playing well, and the difference between the run that we're in at the moment. Obviously, they didn't play particularly well at Wigan, where they drew, and also today, is that earlier in the season, particularly this game, I think they would have gone on to draw. I don't think they'd have won this game 2 or 3 months ago. It shows the probably slow and gradual improvement that we've seen under David Wagner and from this Norwich City group, and that helps as well from the consistency that we're seeing. We're seeing Kenny McLean and Gabriel Sara form a nice partnership in the middle of the pitch. We're seeing Onel Hernandez come to the fore, as I spoke about. We're seeing different players contribute in different ways. Marcelino Nunez, as it was on Tuesday evening. So it's good and it's positive, but it needs to be sustained. And this block of games coming up is going to be a good way to do that. Was there anyone else that I really wanted to talk about? I spoke about Hernandez. Teemu Pukki returned, which was good news for him and good news for Norwich. Adamida, I felt struggled a little bit today. Probably a game too much for him in truth. He's had a lot of load put on his shoulders in the last few weeks. I thought he was really good on Tuesday night. I didn't think that he was that great today. Really didn't have a lot of service, to be honest. Just by the way that the Norwich City play, they did struggle to progress the ball at points. Really unlucky, and I know the debate is going to be when he took the ball round Ryan Allsop from Onel Hernandez's pass, should he have gone down? I think it's very difficult as a striker to round the goalkeeper, stumble a little bit, and then realise you've got an open goal in front of you when you're in desperate need of a goal, to then go down. And obviously it would have been a red card for the goalkeeper, and it would have been a free kick for Norwich City. But for Adamida, I'm not surprised that he then took that on and tried to score. And actually, I don't mind it. But obviously, he was off balance from obviously didn't quite recover his balance from the tackle, and was unable to hit the target. And they would have capped off what was a really good afternoon for Norwich, and a really controlled afternoon as well. So that's a shame, but such is life. And hopefully that goal does come soon for Adamida. I said on Tuesday's verdict, so I don't particularly want to cover old ground, but I feel like some of the criticism of him has been a little bit harsh at points. So Teemu Pukki's back. I would be surprised if Teemu Pukki didn't start at Millwall, given the magnitude of the game, if provided he can get through a full week of training. The Snake Pit were singing about 1 more year, then 2 more years, then 3 more years, and 4 more years, which was good stuff. And overall, a very enjoyable day here at Carrow Road, if somewhat slightly surreal and slightly odd at points. But this team is getting the job done, and this team feels increasingly like one that is growing and improving and getting results at the right time. And they've set themselves up now for a really entertaining end to the Championship campaign. So we'll see where it takes us, but ultimately it takes us on the road to Millwall. Pinken.com, of course, is the place to go. Pinken Plus as well. We've got, David Wagner was doing his press conference before I started. He's probably finished now, but we'll have some stuff from Kenny McLean in the morning, and we'll have plenty more analysis and reaction. And of course, after we've left Carrow Road, we'll head up to our office and record a podcast as well. So we'll chat about this in much more detail. Thank you very much for watching the verdict. Do give us a like and a comment. That's what they say on the old YouTube, isn't it? Make sure you subscribe as well. Plenty more content on this YouTube channel. You could even share it on social media if you're feeling generous, but I won't hold you to that. Thank you very much for watching from Carrow Road, very cold Carrow Road. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday evening. A 2-0 win for Norwich City. Job done. Thank you very much.